Well, we don't worry about you, Gloria. This will never happen to you. Alayne, Skylar, you were a Jennifer?
Yes, I was.
You were a Jennifer for 8 years. From the time you were 21 to 29. This was the stepfather of a pal, is that so?
Yes.
Of a girlfriend. And you kind of just developed a platonic relationship with him. This will just take a moment, and you'll stop me where I'm wrong. You talked, huh? You talked to him on the phone a lot, and he gave you advice about your boyfriends. Then what happened?
Well, I was attracted to him almost from the moment I met him. He was a Phil Donahue type, you know? And so...
I want to ask you what that type is, but I'm afraid to.
Well, that's that warm, sensitive, charming, intellectual...
Let her talk now. Stop interrupting her. Yes, ma'am. And then what happened?
And then a year passed, and he kept inviting me to have a salad, and I don't like salad, but I took him up on a salad. I mean, now I do, but at the time I didn't.
Now, excuse me, but how old was he at the time of this?
He was 48, and I was 21.
Oh, aren't you just disgusted? Oh, we all should live in your neighborhood where this never happens. Yes, and he's 48 and you're 21. As soon as this audience recovers its breath, you'll continue now your story. What happened?
And so we got together and we had our dinner date finally after we spoke, and I guess I sort of might have let him know I was interested in him. He was more cautious than I was. I mean, after all...
You were married, or he was?
No, he was separated.
He was separated.
And I knew his daughter, I knew his children.
They always say that, don't they? I'm not divorced, but I am separated. I'm moving out tomorrow morning.
They lived separately, so he was definitely separated.
Okay.
They had...
All right. You don't have to tell us more than we want to know, but we want to know everything, Alayne. So this continued, and obviously, it moved beyond platonic and became intimate and all those other good things. 21 to 29. Now, did he leave?
Did he leave?
His wife?
Yeah, he eventually divorced. They were divorced during the span of our relationship. And he also had 3 stepchildren that were older than... Actually, his daughter that I was friendly with is older by a month, but the other children were older.
What did it do, incidentally, to your relationship with his daughter?
It was a strain. In the beginning, we didn't tell her. We sort of had I had an assumed name of somebody I was dating, because of course you want to tell your friends, like, oh, you're going out with this wonderful guy.
Did you do the no-tell motel and like that, or did he come over here?
No, it was a nice, you know, it was not at all. You know, water beds and... No, I'm only kidding.
You know, males get to be about 48, they start thinking waterbed. I don't know what it is. Now, listen, what is not so funny is that you look back on this now as a kind of a wasted time, do you?
Well, your 20s are very special years, and I lived them assuming it's sort of an older role. It was difficult with friends, because obviously if we got together with girlfriends that had boyfriends, you know, similar to their age, they didn't want their father figure along. So that was hard. The men actually, the younger men, had a harder time. The girlfriends were fine. So I sort of moved over more towards his friends.
Did you get pregnant?
Yeah.
And he didn't want this baby.
Nope, he didn't.
He must be coming up on 50 about this time, huh? 52?
Oh, he's a little past 50.
Right.
Yeah.
So he wants no babies. He's saying...
yeah. He didn't want it. It was something he had been through with his stepchildren. He had married his then wife with young children, and he didn't want another family. Okay. It was difficult.
Did he say the baby or me?
Yeah, he said the baby or me, and I wanted the baby very, very much.
But you did terminate the pregnancy.
Yeah, it was a hard choice. I went through thinking about I was starting my own business, and I went through looking at daycare centers, thinking, how am I going to put a child in a daycare center from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, financially provide for this child when I'm barely trying to provide for myself.
Now you're 29, and is it sudden? Huh? I mean, you then.
Yeah.
Does it suddenly become clear to you that he is really not going to commit to you?
Yeah, yeah.
You must have felt a little bit like, why did it take me so long to learn this?
Youth. Youth. I mean, really, I adored him. I loved him. When we first met, he didn't have a lot of money. It wasn't something that I met this older man that was very wealthy. Through the relationship, he became very, very successful. So, yeah, it was difficult.
How old are you now, Alayne?
I'm going to be 31.
Oh, so this is a couple years ago then?
Yeah.
You're still single?
Yes.
Well, just please tell me, I mean, when you look back on this, you don't, if you had it to do over again, you wouldn't, would you?
I don't think so. No,
You're not sure?
I think that what happens is I arrived where I am at this stage in life because of those experiences. Would I ever want to give up my 20s again the way I did? No.
Right.
Phil,
But-
I just wanted to say that one of the biggest problems that even when the man marries the Jennifer
Yes.
is the decision about having children.
He's usually not crazy about the idea.
She promises not to want them, and he says he doesn't want any, but
And then-
after a while she feels the desire for, and I interviewed a number of Jennifers who had had an abortion, to keep the marriage the way
Really?
they wanted it. But it is the biggest problem
I
between
would-
a man
I
and his
think so.
Jennifer.
I went through also, Loudon Wainwright, who writes for the New York Times, had just had his baby about that time. And I actually contacted him because there's an age disparity and he was going through it. And he wrote me letters, and it was interesting because I felt like, well, if there's an older man that's done it, and here he's writing these beautiful, beautiful articles about his daughter, and he had an older son that somehow maybe. And we went through yes and no and yes and no, and it was terrible. I mean, I remember going for the abortion, and a pregnant nurse led me to this thing that I was devastated to have. It was just terrible.
What do you, how do you read him now? Why do you suppose he didn't marry you?
He wanted to. He wanted to in the end. And it was the end after it just deteriorated after the pregnancy. But he did. He very much wanted. And then when I left him, he was devastated. I mean, it was letters upon letters and standing in front of my apartment house and things like that.
So you're unhooked now. Presumably he is too. Do you know, how's he doing? Did he marry?
No, he's not married. He writes me occasionally to tell me how he's dating and
Are you afraid to see him? I mean, you feel the hook's still there?
I'd like to somehow be friends. 8 years is a long time. It's a marriage, and then it's a divorce, and it's a long time.
Well, what I want to know is the problem that men want to feel younger with younger women, or is the problem at home to begin with? Are they not getting along with their wives and they're looking for something, or all of a sudden they just decide they need something younger?
I think it's a combination of both. I think that it's very exciting to an older man to have, it's an ego trip to have a younger woman.
You know, there's also the myth that men get better as they get older. I don't see that many men who've gotten much better. No, I mean, that's the truth. Some men get better, but so do some women, right?
She did, after I got
I was just wondering, for the lady on the left who was involved with the older man, how was her relationship with her father? Was like they're not just if there was not a father figure, or was there something wrong or lacking?
I think of a
that you were
lot of it
looking for
was
something
a
else?
father figure. I think that some interesting things that happened along the way was he had a son who was a teenager who developed a crush on me during the relationship because I was Dad's friend. It wasn't really explained to him. But on the other hand, something I wanted to say before was I had communication with his ex-wife, and she was very glad to see the same patterns happening again to somebody else. I mean, a lot of the things that I went through with him, she said she saw it happening. You know, it was like looking in the mirror.
Same tape, different woman.
Same tape, different. And she's actually somewhat older than him, and she's quite beautiful. So.
And
there
what
goes
would allow you to really have this kind of conversation with your lover's wife?
Well, she had been a friend of mine's mother. I knew her, and it was a kind of interesting friendship. I liked her. We were friends. Her son was sort of involved, and I think she was looking out for her son and she was feeling me out.
So you sat there and you talked with her, and
we talked, yeah.
She
We were
said,
buddies.
I know what you mean, I know what you mean.
It's a real interesting point that she brought up about being concerned about the kids. And I've said this over and over again. It's really important for women to realize that one of these days they're going to want to be involved with somebody else. And if they turn their kids against their husbands, they're going to end up with neurotic kids who never want to go and visit their father. And they're going to end up with crazy kids who never leave their side. So it's, even if you do it
kids
for
who
a
are going to dislike their future lover.
That's right. So, I mean, even if you do it for selfish reasons, do it for yourself. You don't need that. And it's real, you know, you don't need, children don't need to grow up that way either.
I counseled his son. I mean, when he was, now he's 21 or 22, and he used to come to me with girlfriend problems. And the interesting thing was the age difference wasn't that great that I could relate to things that he was going through. So
Didn't they resent you?
No. I think that his son had problems because he developed a crush on me, and that was a big problem. But the resentment, I sort of became part of the family. You know, they were my age.
Talk about an extended family.
Yeah, they were, you know, I mean, here I was cooking dinner one night, and the kids came over, and, you know, it was interesting.
Yeah.
Alayne, how did your family feel about this relationship?
Do you know, for the 8 years, they never really met him. They knew about him, but they never met him.
I would like to know if you even thought while you were going through this whole relationship where you would be in 10, 20 years.
If you joined us late, we should say that you were the Jennifer in, as Barbara Gordon's book refers to, the younger woman who becomes involved with an older man. Your older man was 48-ish.
Yeah, 27 years older.
27 years older. And this happened, Alayne, in your 20s, 21
Yes.
to 29.
Right.
What was your question?
I would like to know if you even thought, you know, during this relationship that was lasting so long, where would you be in 10 or 20 years?
I thought that we would get married. I hoped that we would.
Incidentally, Barbara, I assume most of these relationships do not go to marriage. So?
Some of them do and some of them don't.
Well, but I
There's
mean,
no way of telling which guy is actually going to commit to the marriage. And many Jennifers these days are thinking twice about marriage themselves. They're devoted to their career.
He began to look very old to me. He began to look old. As I developed my career, all of a sudden he looked old.
I know.
It was sad. It was sad.
You know, do you have any idea how tiring it is to hold in your tummy? I mean, it's just, you know, you can't breathe. And if you hold in your tummy, your neck falls down. This is very difficult. You just don't know.
All these older, wealthy men have to be, I mean, they have to be wealthy, that's my point.
He wasn't wealthy. We ate ravioli on a hot plate in the beginning because he was supporting his children and his ex-wife in a 5-bedroom apartment. I don't know if I want to say that.
It's probably a powerful position.
He became wealthy. He had been vice president of a major company, and then he started his own business. And I got involved with him in the struggling years, and then he did become very wealthy. And it was lovely to then, you know, emerge with somebody. But no, I didn't fall in love with a wealthy man.
Yet the research indicates that although the old saying is you never see a young Jennifer with a poor older guy, the research indicates that it is just as significant a factor in blue-collar and lower middle income.
We'll be back in a moment.